Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the inner sanctum.
Well, it's Halloween at the Nelsons' home, and let's check in with Ozzie and Harriet in the Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, going back to October 31st, 1948, as they deal with their own haunted house.
Did you know, Harriet, that there are over 320,000 men in the National Guard today?
No, I didn't.
And did you know that every member of the Guard reports for training with his unit at least once a week and receives pay for it?
No, I didn't.
And that they now have an aviation branch called the Air National Guard?
Did you know that dinner is ready and it's time to go to work with our 1847 Rogers Brothers silver plate?
No, I didn't.
And that America's finest silver plate is 1847 Rogers Brothers?
That I did.
America's finest silver plate is 1847 Rogers Brothers. From Hollywood, International Silver Company, creators of 1847 Rogers Brothers silver plate, presents The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, starring America's favorite young couple, Ozzie Nelson and Harriet Hilliard. Say, there's excitement in the air. A mysterious change has taken place in the vicinity of 1847 Rogers Road. Remember the friendly old elm tree in front of the house? Well, it doesn't look friendly anymore. The full moon shining through it, and on one of the bare branches, there's a big black owl. And the old dependable weather vane on top of the garage. Gee, it looks different now. I'm not sure if it's a weather vane or not, the way the shadows fall. Could be a witch on a broomstick. Oh, it's spooky out tonight. In the Nelson kitchen, there's an atmosphere of feverish activity and excited preparations.
What are you looking for, David?
We're trying to find some paper bags, big ones.
Well, look in the bottom drawer there.
There, that's a good one, Ricky.
Yeah, but what'll I do with the potatoes? No, not that drawer, Ricky, on the other side.
Hey, what's going on out here?
We're getting some paper bags.
It sounded like you were taking the kitchen apart.
It's Halloween, boy. We're going to have fun tonight, Pop.
Yeah, looks plenty spooky out to me.
What do you have there, dear?
Oh, I was just rummaging around upstairs a bit, and I thought the boys might make a costume out of these old work pants.
Gee, Pop, they're pretty dirty.
Not only that, dear, they're covered with paint.
Well, what do you expect, Harriet? I wore them when I painted the breakfast nook.
I think you did a better job on the pants than you did on the breakfast nook.
How about you, Ricky? Would you like to be a painter? Will you get your white cap and stick a couple of brushes in your belt?
Golly, Pop, those pants are pretty big.
Oh, I don't know. Let's see how they look on you. Here, step into them. Put your foot in there. Yeah. Now the other foot. Now pull them up.
Oh, that's a wonderful costume. The Headless Painter.
Anyhow, Pop, we don't need costumes. We got masks, that's enough.
Well, you suit yourself. We used to wear costumes when I was a kid.
That's just for little kids, Pop. Me and David are going trick or treat.
Trick or treat?
Sure. We ring a guy's doorbell and say trick or treat. If he doesn't give us cookies or something, we let him have it. There you are, dear. That's Halloween, 1948.
Sounds more like Chicago, 1925.
It's a lot of fun, Pop. Didn't you used to do that when you were a kid?
No, David, as I recall, we used to go in more for the real spirit of Halloween. You know, the spooky, scary stuff.
What do you mean, Pop?
Oh, I mean, we'd find some old haunted house and go prowling around looking for ghosts and stuff.
You sure were brave, Pop.
Oh, not necessarily, David.
Pop, did you ever see a ghost?
Oh, I won't say I saw a ghost, but I will say I saw something.
A spook?
I don't know. It was white and shimmering, indistinct. It wavered back and forth. Sometimes it was there, sometimes it wasn't there. White and shimmering.
Did they have television sets then, Pop?
No, Ricky, this was right out in the center of the living room. I'm afraid Halloween's different nowadays. All the wonderful, spooky, hobgoblin atmosphere, that's all changed now. Can't help feeling a little sad when you see the joys of your childhood disappearing in a changing world. Halloween just isn't exciting anymore.
Are you going to cry, Pop?
No, he isn't. It's just the memories coming back.
You sure must have had fun, Pop. Do you think there's really such a thing as a ghost? A real ghost, I mean?
No, I don't know. In a spooky old house with the moon shining through the broken shutters, you imagine you see some pretty strange things.
I'd sure like to see a ghost. Boy, would I run.
Well, there's the old McAdams house up on the hill. That's a pretty spooky-looking place. I wouldn't be at all surprised if there were a ghost or two lurking around in there.
Do you think we could see one if we went up there, Pop?
It's very possible.
Oh, Ozzie. David, your father's just kidding.
Oh, let the boys have a little fun, Harriet. After all, it's Halloween.
Come on, grab the bags, Ricky. We gotta get going.
Hey, wait for me.
Don't you think a lot of the spirit of Halloween has been lost?
Oh, I don't know, dear. The kids seem to have a good time. That's the important thing.
Oh, they pretend to enjoy it, but where's the fun? Trick or treat. Where's the adventure? What danger is there in getting a handful of cookies from Mrs. Dunkel?
You've never eaten Mrs. Dunkel's cookies.
Have we had any callers yet?
Oh, about a dozen of them. You should have seen little Julie Thornberry. She was all dressed up in one of Catherine's old dresses, and she had a stocking on her head.
Really? Oh, I'm sorry I missed it.
And little Georgie Dunkel, he had the cutest clown suit with skeletons sewed on it.
We sure have some cute little kids in this neighborhood.
I'll get it.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me get it. I want to have some fun, too. Yes?
Trick or treat.
Wait a minute. Aren't you a little big to be playing trick or treat?
Trick or treat.
How old are you?
53.
Who ever heard of a grown man playing trick or treat?
Well, my little boy's over on the next block. I'm just helping him out.
You don't even have a costume.
What do you think I am, a child? Come on, trick or treat.
It's a little unusual. What happens if I don't give you a treat?
Well, I sneak back later and ring your doorbell.
So what?
And when you answer it, I punch you in the nose. Come on, trick or treat.
This is really funny. Here are some cookies.
Only 3?
Well, they've got to go around. There are other children, too, you know.
Okay. Oh, they're chocolates. My kid likes chocolate cookies. Thanks.
Well, that's all right. How old is your little boy?
25.
One of the kids in the neighborhood, one of the older kids.
Say, would you do me a favor if you're not too busy?
Yeah, what is it?
Would you stop down at the store and get some candies or something? The rate we're going, we're going to run out of stuff.
Okay, Hey, what are you doing?
Just putting a couple of cookies in your pocket, in case you got stopped for trick or treat. Some of the boys get pretty rough.
Oh, Harriet, please. You don't think I'm afraid of a bunch of kids?
No, suit yourself. Last Halloween, Joe Randolph bumped into the backfield of the high school football team and came home minus his trousers.
No kidding. I understand they have a pretty good team this year.
Why don't you just take these 4 cookies, just in case?
You better give me 2 more. The ends might be with them. Let go, don't tear my pencil. The cookies were in my pocket. They're very nice cookies. Wonderful cookies.
What's this about, cookies?
Oh, it's you, Thorne. What a corny trick, hiding behind the head.
Oh, just keeping in the spirit of Halloween. You should see what I did to Dunkel a little while ago.
Did you scare him? What did you do?
I sneaked up on his front porch, rang the doorbell, and ran like the dickens. He didn't know what to think. Then when he went in the house, I went around to the back and started rattling the back door. Oh, boy, was he scared.
What else did you do, Patty?
Well, I waited a few minutes, then I tapped on the window and moaned like this. Ooh. Then I rattled the door again, and I moaned some more. Then I began pounding on the side of the house.
Yeah, and then what?
Then the police came. That Dunkel just has no sense of humor.
Did the police do anything to you?
No, just told me to stop annoying people. They took my soap away, too.
You're just a big kid at heart, aren't you, Thorny?
Well, it's all in fun, Oz. What's Halloween nowadays? Nothing happens. My boy Will's out playing trick or treat.
David and Ricky, too. Somehow Halloween sort of lost the old kick.
Yeah, it sure isn't like it was when we were kids.
You know, there was an old haunted house in our town, and every Halloween us kids used to go prowling through it. Really spooky.
Sure, that's the real spirit of Halloween.
Now, you take the old McAdams place up on Franklin Avenue. There's a perfect haunted house. There's some way to sneak in there.
You mean you go in there at night?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Oh, no reason. I just never cared for the looks of the place myself. Those grotesque chimneys, staring windows. Sort of gives me the creeps.
Thorny, you're kidding.
No, I'm not, Oz. There's something frightening about it. Especially at night.
What an imagination. Well, I've got to get down to the drugstore. I promised Harriet I'd get some candy and stuff.
Okay, Oz. See you later. Say, when you go by the McAdams place, don't let the ghosts get you.
Oh, that's right. I go right by there, don't I?
Yes, sir. Not afraid, are you, Oz?
Oh, Thorny, cut it out. If you walk down the store with me, I'll buy you a soda.
We went over to the McAdams place and we saw a ghost.
A real ghost?
A ghost, a real ugly one with sharp teeth and a long nose and pointed ears and hair all over his face.
And first we thought it was Pop.
That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said about me.
I mean, we thought it was you trying to scare us.
Oh, boys, don't be silly.
You guys probably saw the moon shining through the window, and your imagination did the rest.
Okay, go up and see for yourself.
Yeah, why don't you, Pop?
Yeah, why don't you, Pop?
Well, I'd be glad to, except I promised to take your mother to the movies.
Since when?
Well, that is, I've been thinking about it all day. There's a wonderful triple Halloween show at the Bijou. The Son of Frankenstein, Dracula's Daughter, and A Date with Judy.
I wasn't counting on the movies, dear. In fact, I'd much rather you'd go up and give us a report on the ghost.
Oh, it's so silly.
Go ahead, Pop. Have some fun. Go ahead, dear.
Well, okay. If it makes you happy, I'll go up and visit the haunted house.
Hooray for Daddy.
I thought for a minute there you were getting scared, Pop.
Oh, David.
Oh, just remember this, boys. There's not a cowardly bone in your father's body. Of course, every now and then the meat around them gets a little jumpy.
Meet around. What am I laughing at?
October 31st, 1948, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
You know, a lot of times you have to choose between something high quality or something that saves you money. But if you can get both, why not? Especially when it comes to health care. And that's MediShare. You get both. The typical family saves $500 a month switching to MediShare. And that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. It's because MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge PPO network, so yeah, really, you could save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. If you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number you need. Call 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, more The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, October 31st, 1948.
Warning to all ghosts. Beware, Ozzie Nelson will get you if you don't watch out. Yes, indeed. Ozzie Nelson, arch enemy of all ghosts, goblins, spirits, and similar supernatural phenomena, is on the march. Target for tonight: the ghost that walks in the old McAdams house. See the courageous Ozzie as he strides firmly across the porch of 1847 Rogers Road. Chin up, flashlight swinging at his side. Down the steps, down the walk. And now he stops. Every muscle tense, eyes alert, nose twitching. A white, filmy object moves out of the darkness.
Who's there?
It's me, Mr. Nelson.
Oh, hello, Emmy Lou.
I came over to show you my Halloween costume. I'm going to a party. Where are you going, Mr. Nelson?
Oh, I'm on an errand for the boys. They went up to the old McAdams house tonight, and they think they saw a ghost.
Really, Mr. Nelson?
Yeah, I'm going up there, to prove to them it was just their imagination.
You're going in that spooky old house tonight, alone?
Well, of course.
Evidently you haven't heard the story about the McAdams place.
Well, I've heard some silly rumor it's supposed to be haunted or something.
But it is, Mr. Nelson. I heard the whole story from the people who live next door. The story goes that years ago in Scotland, in the old Haggis Castle, the young and beautiful Lady Jane McAdams had a quarrel with her lover, Douglas McDingle McCampbell McTavish. A Scotchman.
Yes, as much.
Well, anyway, Lady Jane pushed her lover, Douglas McDingle McCampbell McTavish, down the stairs. Down, down, down he went, his head banging on each stone step. Thump, thump, crunch, crunch. His bagpipes mournfully playing, the Campbells are coming. As he lay at the bottom of the staircase dying, Douglas McDingle McCampbell McTavish, or as they called him, Mac, as he lay at the bottom of the staircase, he took an oath.
Oh, I'd swear a little myself.
He took an oath that he'd follow Lady Jane wherever she went. His spirit would always haunt her.
Where did she go?
She came here to the United States and built the old McAdams place. And they say that on nights of a full moon, like tonight, the giant ghost of Lord McTavish returns. And while the eerie notes of bagpipes ring in the night air, he prowls the house in search of Lady Jane.
It makes a good story, but nobody in his right mind would believe it.
Well, you believe it, don't you, Mr. Nelson?
Yes, but I'm not. Of course, it's a lot of nonsense.
Okay, Mr. Nelson, but remember, if you go up there tonight and see the ghost and get a terrible fright and drop dead, don't come around saying I didn't warn you. Happy Halloween!
Harriet.
Oh, hello, dear. You back so soon?
No, I haven't gone yet. As a matter of fact, I've been thinking this over, and I don't think I'll go. The whole idea seems sort of childish.
Well, what about the boys, dear? You promised them.
I know, but I mean, after all, isn't it silly for a full-grown man? It's only a wild goose. That's all it is.
Well, if you'd like, dear, I'll go with you.
And the boys... What did you say?
I said I'll go with you.
There are times, Harriet, when a man likes to be alone.
Oh. Well, all right, dear.
Get your coat. This isn't one of those times. Don't get nervous now, dear. Just keep cool.
Oh, I'm cool, all right. As a matter of fact, I'm shivering a little.
Just hold my hand good and tight.
I can't.
Hmm?
You're squeezing mine so hard the fingers are asleep.
Sorry. Is that better?
It's better. How do we get through this iron fence?
There's a gate here someplace, I think. It'll probably be bolted and spoil all our fun. They usually have a huge lock on these things and thick chains. Now, here we are. Oh.
Locked?
No.
Well, push it open.
Here, will you take the flashlight a second? Thanks. And the baseball bat, too.
Ooh. Doesn't this place look weird?
Yes, it is pretty spooky at that. Shall I sing something to keep your nerve up?
If you want to, dear.
It'll keep you from getting scared. Did you ever think, as the hearse goes by, someday you are going to die? There's a spook in the meadow.
Dear, dear. Shh. It might frighten the ghosts. Must be a haunted house. The door squeaks.
I don't know why you insisted on coming along, Harriet. I could just as easily have come by myself.
Ozzie, something has hold of my coat.
Yeah, that's me. Who closed the door?
Didn't you?
No.
Oh, it must have been the wind. Gee, this place sure looks creepy with the moon streaming through the windows. What was that?
Now, dear, don't be frightened. I'm right beside you.
Ozzie, there's something in this room. It's coming toward us.
It's getting closer. Harriet, quick, my baseball bat.
Hey, Oz, careful with that. Do it.
Oh.
Hello, Harriet.
You old trickster,
I
Thorny.
just thought I'd have a little fun with all the talk that's been going around about this place.
So you're the ghost David and Ricky saw. I should have guessed by the description. You should have a bagpipe, though, Thorny.
A bagpipe?
Well, sure, haven't you heard? This place is supposed to be haunted by a Scotch ghost who plays the bagpipe. And each night he comes down the stairs playing some old... Well, you do have one, Thorny. Where is it? Oh, you sure play awful.
Worse than you think. I don't play at all.
Did I hear a bagpipe? Listen, I can hear it plain as day.
Ozzie, up there, the head of the stairs.
The ghost.
The ghost of Lord McTavish. Well, we've seen it. Let's go.
Now, let's all keep calm about this. We'll just be quiet. Ow!
It's getting late, Thorny. Let's get out of here.
Ozzie, you're carrying my coat. Wait!
Oz, the door won't open. I keep turning the handle and it won't open.
Stop it, Thorny. You've got hold of my nose.
This way, boys. Thorny, the door's over here.
Follow me. I'll make one of my own.
More coffee, dear?
No, thanks. I can't understand it. There must be some scientific explanation. Did I seem very scared out there?
Oh, no, not especially.
I mean, did I act in any way that might give somebody the impression that this illusion we saw frightened me?
No, you were very level-headed about it. Of course, it was the first time I've ever seen you jump a 7-foot fence.
I didn't think I could fool you.
October 31st, 1948, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. The conclusion when Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox continues. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet from Halloween, October 31st, 1948.
That thing, whatever it was, scared the daylights out of me.
I was plenty scared myself. I can't figure out those bagpipes.
No, and then what about the ghost?
Oh, well, yes, of course, the ghost, too.
Harriet, what are you stuffing behind the sofa pillow?
Oh, nothing, dear, just some old papers and things.
Wait a minute, let me see that.
It's only an old sheet.
You'll get the couch dirty. It's got cobwebs. Cobwebs!
How about a little more coffee?
And there's Ricky's baseball bat, the one Harriet, if you'd like to make a little confession, I'll listen. But if you'd rather not, I'd rather you would.
All right, dear. It's just the boys and I thought it'd be nice if you could have a little fun on Halloween. You told them how much you enjoyed going to some haunted house. So we thought that if we could sort of... Ozzie, listen.
I'm listening. Go on.
No, listen. The bagpipes.
Yeah.
I hear the bagpipes again.
So do I.
Hey, Pop, can we have a dime?
Boys, listen. Do you hear bagpipes playing?
Sure, that's what we want the dime for. He's out front now.
Who's out front?
Mr. Campbell, the man with the Scotch plaid ice cream truck.
The Scotch plaid ice cream truck?
Well, sure. Haven't you ever seen him? Can we have a dime, Pop?
A dime? Here's 50 cents. Stuff yourselves.
Thanks, Pop. Oh, boy.
Hurry up, David.
How about that? The bagpipes we heard at the McAdams place were from the Scotch plaid ice cream truck.
What a coincidence.
How remarkable. You see, the Scotch plaid ice cream truck happened to stop there. See, there are no other houses around, and nobody lives there, but he happened to stop there. Played a different tune up there, too, didn't he?
I don't remember.
Harriet, believe me, it was only the Scotch plaid ice cream truck.
Yes, I know, dear.
I'll say it just once more. The bagpipes we heard at the McAdams place were from the Scotch plaid ice cream truck.
Okay, dear, you've convinced me.
I wish I could convince myself I'd like to get some sleep tonight.
Oh, come on, dear. Put out the light. Let's go to sleep.
In a few minutes, Harriet. I just want to finish this article. Debunking the spook.
Debunking the spook?
Yeah, the man who wrote it spent the night in a house that was supposed to be haunted. As I sat there in the darkness, I could hear the clock in the village striking 12. Now was the witching hour. If ever the dead lived, now was the time they must rise from the grave. I stood up and dared the ghost to appear. I said, if you were a ghost, I dare you to strike me dead. A silly article.
What happened next?
Well, then, let's see. He goes on to...
Yes?
The article ends right there.
Oh, come on, dear. I'm tired. I want to go to sleep.
And you know what might be fun? Let's sleep with the lights on tonight.
Tune in next week to another adventure of Ozzie and Harriet, starring Ozzie Nelson and Harriet Hilliard.
And remember, America's finest silver plate is 1847 Rogers Brothers.
Yes, Harriet, America's finest silver plate is 1847 Rogers Brothers.
Appearing in support of Ozzie and Harriet were John Brown, Janet Waldo, Henry Blair, Tommy Bernard, and Jack Kirkwood. Original music was composed and conducted by Billy May. This program originates in the Hollywood studios of the National Broadcasting Company and is also broadcast over the Trans-Canada Network of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. This adventure of Ozzie and Harriet will be transmitted to our men and women overseas by shortwave and through the worldwide facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service.
The camels are coming. No, Lord McTavish.
Ozzie!
It's a ghost.
Ozzie, wake up! Geez, what's all the racket, Mom?
Daddy's having a nightmare.
Is that what he's doing? That noise really scared us.
Well, it frightened me, too.
Okay, now we're even.
Next week to the next adventure of Ozzie and Harriet, starring Ozzie Nelson and Harriet Hilliard. This is Vern Smith speaking.
October 31st, 1948, Ozzie and Harriet on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. I didn't take a deep dive, but I don't think we have aired Adventures in Research on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox before. The show was originally, it was designed by Westinghouse, and their physicist, Dr. Philip Thomas, wrote many of these tales to encourage civic interest in science. Let's listen to this episode of Adventures in Research. This episode was originally broadcast October 31st, 1950, about the McCormick-Reaper.
Adventures in Research. This is Paul Shannon bringing you another transcribed story of science produced as a public service in cooperation with the Westinghouse Research Laboratory. And today telling you the story of how one man did more to satisfy hunger than any other who ever lived in a story entitled The McCormick-Reaper. Although bread is the staff of life, few parts of the world had enough until science and invention began to play immensely important roles in civilization. On fertile plains and prairies, grain rotted in the fields, simply because there were not enough men available to harvest it in the limited time. Well aware of this problem was the Royal Agricultural Society of England, which in 1822 announced,
"The Royal Agricultural Society offers a prize of £1,000 to any man bringing forward an invention which will aid the harvesting of wheat."
Working for the prize of inventing a practical reaper to harvest grain was the Reverend Patrick Bell of Dundee, Scotland. He produced a reaper which had a reel, an elevator that discharged grain in a swath at one side of the machine, and a cutter bar made up of 12 pair of shears. But unfortunately for Reverend Bell, the farmhands around Dundee were not as sympathetic toward a mechanical reaper as he was. He was making some minor repairs on his reaper in the barn one evening when...
"You see, Mon, these 12 pair of shears, one blade on each is held fast while the other does the snipping. But they keep choking up, and then I get free of the grain. Well, Hoot, what's the racket at this time of night?"
Hey, Bell, be in there!
Let us in there. We'll break you in the door. All right, lads. Heave to. So, Reverend. Inventing a machine, is it? Machines that put honest laddies out of work. Yeah, the devil take your cursed machine that does the work of so many men. All right, laddies. Heave to and smash this infernal machine for once and all.
In America, men were also working on a reaper that would harvest wheat mechanically. A sailor in Nantucket, Massachusetts, Obed Hussey, was building a reaper. And a farmer in Virginia, Robert McCormick, was telling his son,
I wish I had $1 for every day I worked on inventing a reaper. And there isn't a boy or man in Virginia who ever swung a scythe and felt his back breaking that didn't have the idea of a reaper to do the work. Up to last year alone, up to 1830, mind you, 58 patents for mechanical reapers have been granted here and in England, and not one of them worth a continental.
But, Father, you are an inventor.
A threshing machine I invented, and an idea for a hillside plow, and a blacksmith bellows, and my clover huller. But a reaper? You no sooner whip one problem than another smacks you right between the eyes. You should have heard how the neighbors laughed when they saw me out trying that reaper. Let me tell you what the problems are, son. A horse cannot pull a reaper without his trampling down the grain before it's cut. And you can't have him push it. And another, how can you cut the tangled fallen grain? Or how do you have it so the sickle does not just pass over the grain and flatten it? And yet another, the cut grain. How do you prevent it from falling in amongst the uncut grain? Problems, Cyrus. I suppose I ought to encourage you to invent a flying machine or a boat with feet or a fishpole to snag a star. But go ahead, invent a reaper.
But even in 1830, the younger generation did not always follow the advice of the older. And so young Cyrus McCormick meticulously listed the errors of his father and set out to build a reaper. And despite all the other inventions and patents pertaining to reapers, young Cyrus evolved new devices to solve many of those insurmountable problems. Devices which became basic to all reapers thereafter.
So, a horse cannot pull the reaper without trampling down the grain. But he could be hitched to one side and walk through the stubble that has already been cut. Why not something like this to cut that tangled grain? A curved arm at the end of the sickle. It could draw the fallen grain that is to be cut away from the tangled mass, which could be left for the next swath. Now, as the machine moves forward, this reaper knife could slash back and forth. If I put a connecting rod here, which could operate a reciprocating blade. If I inserted a row of fingers that could guide the grain directly into the cutting edge, the sickle wouldn't be so apt to pass over the grain. And how about a revolving reel, like a fishing reel, which could sweep the grain into the blade?
Step by step, Cyrus McCormick solved what had been insurmountable problems. He built a platform on which the cut grain fell to be raked off by a man who walked alongside, and one giant driving wheel that not only carried the weight of the machine, but as it turned, operated both sickle and reel. And so, step by step, young Cyrus brought 7 new principles to the reaper: side draft, moving sickle, divider, fingers, revolving reel, platform, and driving wheel. And in 1831 demonstrated his McCormick reaper to considerable success for the onlookers.
Land of Goshen, Nat, look at her go, slicker than a greased pig.
But no sales. Another demonstration followed in 1832 and 1833, and still not a single sale. So McCormick inserted an advertisement in the Lexington Union.
Shuckins, Mr. McCormick, you just write down what you want me to say about it, and I'll sign it. Thing works slicker than a greased pig.
Well, I'm offering my reaper at $50 apiece. And I thought I'd include in the advertisement something like a testimonial from some of the farmers who know it works.
$50. A right smart lot of money. But you can just put me down, Cyrus. Anything you want me to say about it, I'll say. Say it works slicker than a greased pig.
Fine, Mr. Miller. Now, would you be interested in buying...
Say, I said it works, didn't I? Tarnation. How could I afford $50 for one on my little farm? But it works. It works slicker than a greased pig.
It was 9 years before McCormick could find a buyer. Meanwhile, his father died. And not until 1840 did a man come up to Cyrus McCormick and say,
You McCormick?
I am.
Well, Smith's my name. Alexander Smith. Rode clear up from Staunton to see you, and that's no near piece of travel. Saw them demonstrate that reaper contraption of yours. I'll chance it.
3 weeks later, 2 other buyers came by horseback over the Blue Ridge Mountains. Those marked his total sales for that year. But bit by bit, sale by sale, McCormick began finding purchasers for his newfangled invention. Orders began to sift in, and by 1844, the McCormick homestead was a busy factory.
How's she going, Mr. McCormick?
Fine, Uncle Jess. Just fine, sir.
Hey, from the mail I've been toting here for the past week, I should rightly guess so.
In fact, you're just the person I've been wanting to talk to.
Yeah?
Last week or two, you brought me 7 mail orders. 4 from Illinois, 1 from Iowa, Wisconsin, and Missouri. All wanting a reaper.
That's right.
Now, just how are we going to ship them out?
Well, it looks to me like you've bit off a mite of trouble, Mr. McCormick. As the fella says, I don't think you can get there from here. I guess maybe you could haul 'em down to Scottsville by wagon, ship 'em by canal boat to Richmond, then get 'em on a boat going down the James to the ocean, get 'em around Florida and to New Orleans, then you could ship 'em up the Mississippi. I guess maybe that'd do it.
All that? Why, it'd take months, Uncle Jess.
I guess it would at that. That west is a big, smart piece of territory, Mr. McCormick. A right smart piece. And maybe you better stick, as the fella says, to your own backyard.
But Cyrus McCormick reasoned otherwise. If those orders came from the west, without any effort on his part, then his greatest market might lie beyond the mountains, where the land was flat and fertile, and labor scarce. So the slim 6-foot, full-bearded gentleman became a migratory pioneer by riverboat, stagecoach, and horseback through the Middle West. He saw men and women working feverishly during the day and all through the night to make the most of the short harvest season. He saw hogs and cattle turned loose in wheat fields to eat the overripe grain which could not be harvested for want of farm hands. He saw that here was the agricultural empire of the future. And he finally saw Chicago.
Well, Mr. McCormick, what do you think of our little city here? Going to be a thriving metropolis someday, yes, sirree, Bob.
You ask me what I think, Mr. Ogden. Well, knowing you're the mayor of Chicago, I sort of don't want to...
Go ahead. What do you think of it?
I think it's an ugly, swampy, depressed little town.
Mr. McCormick, do you know what the real estate values were here a year ago?
Yes, and I know what they are today. Next to nothing.
Let me tell you, Mr. McCormick, here in Chicago you can obtain coal from nearby mines, iron ore from the north by way of the Great Lakes. Ribbons of steel are knotting the country together, and Chicago is going to be the heart of it.
Yes, that's true. It could solve my transportation problem.
Mr. McCormick, you and that reaper are just what we need. I'll give you $25,000 for a half interest, and we'll start a factory right now.
Yes, Cyrus was the first man to decide on Chicago as the location of a large manufacturing concern. And his reaper and Chicago grew together. Every reaper that went out to the farms added to the store of grain shipped back to the city. Then McCormick added salesmanship to his prowess.
With every machine, a written guarantee which warrants it in every respect. And a partial payment plan. Just $30 down and pay the rest in 6 months, providing the reaper cuts 1.5 acres an hour. If it doesn't do all I say, I'll take it back and give you back your down payment.
So in 1851, at the London World's Fair, Cyrus H. McCormick was awarded the Grand Council Medal.
Mr. McCormick, your reaper machine is worth the whole cost of the exposition.
And McCormick was elected to the French Academy of Science.
To Monsieur McCormick,
for having done more for the cause of agriculture than any living man.
Well, wherever the Slim Reaper went, the machine helped to make bread more plentiful and less costly. In many areas of Europe, it helped to ease the pains of mass hunger, and by bringing the mechanization to the farm, Cyrus McCormick brought to a successful conclusion an adventure in research that helped to feed the world. And that's today's Adventure in Research, produced in cooperation with the Westinghouse Research Laboratory. These programs are broadcast to Armed Forces personnel overseas through the facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service. Join us again next week for another transcribed story of science on Adventures in Research.
October 31st, 1950, Adventures in Research here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Got to tell you, it's an interesting show, not dry and dull, but lots of good information on that people need to know. Wish we had more of that. Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Would you thank this station and support their advertisers? It is their kindness and courtesy that allows us to be with you each and every time you roll around here on your favorite radio station. Now, if you miss a day, you don't have to miss a single show. All of our shows are available on demand at classicradio.stream. That is classicradio.stream. You can stream our shows on demand, learn more about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can find information on podcast sites that have our shows available for download. You can also find our social media links. You can contact me, and if you want to buy me a copy, you can do that as well. Thank you, Mark, for buying me another coffee. I greatly appreciate that because all that buy me a coffee money goes to building additional classic radio collections. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.